You're listening to the DFO Rundown podcast with Frank Saravalli and Jason Gregor on dailyfaceoff.com.
Welcome to episode 13 of the DFO Rundown. I'm Jason Gregor. Frank Saravalli joins us as always. Frankie, how you doing?
I'm good. You?
Good. You know what? I think I just called you Frankie for the first time. Is Frankie like the nickname, or do you have a nickname?
That was actually like all anyone called me growing up. Like it was like my name on official documents at school. And then at a certain point, I just felt like I sounded like a clown and just wanted to become Frank, which maybe I still am a clown.
All right. Well, there you go. So, we'll depend from certain answers, then maybe we'll change how I address you. There's lots to discuss. So let's get right to it. We're going to have Don Waddell joining us. He
maybe the most interesting man in hockey, and you'll know why at the end of the interview.
Oh, you know what? He's done so much. He has got an unbelievable story. And so the Don Waddell interview today is going to be brought to you by jockmarket.com. You can go to jockmkt.com. If you like fantasy sports and you feel you like a little bit of a risk kind of combining with the stock market, it does both. And where it basically happens is you buy the stock of the player when the game starts. And if he gets points, his stock value goes up because his fantasy points go up. So you're playing both markets kind of simultaneously. And the great part is you can try it for free. If you go to jockmkt.com, use the code word DFO20 and you'll get free $20 to start, and you can play around and figure it out, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. So that's coming up a little bit later on in the show. Let's get to the big news. We've been pretty good in the league for a long time. No COVID, but now the Boston Bruins have quite a few cases. Some games postponed against the Buffalo Sabres. You look, I know the league had pushed the regular season right to May 10th, right to that last Tuesday. And Boston's already had a condensed schedule down the stretch. Mm-hmm. This is going to condense it even more. Do you think we might see the NHL have to use that week buffer?
They might have to. I was looking at Boston's schedule. Like they have some room on maybe that 9th, 10th, 11th range. Maybe you go a game on the 9th, a game on the 11th. I think they're hesitant to go into mid-May. And to this point, think about all the other issues that have popped up. The Dallas Stars, not just COVID at the very beginning of the season, but also the games that they missed due to the ice storm there. That team's playing 4 games in 6 nights for the entire rest of the season. They don't have any 2 days off in a row, and they're going right to May 10th. So I think the Bruins are probably in that same window, 9th, 10th, 11th, somewhere around there. But I don't know if we're quite at mid-May just yet.
And what that challenge is for the Bruins, everybody knows the East is pretty tight with 5 teams. They're battling with Philly and Pittsburgh. Washington's rolling, so they've created a little bit of a gap. Same with the Islanders. And if all of a sudden you got to condense all those games together, that might be the difference for a team that's really struggling with depth scoring to begin with.
Yeah. And you know what? The other part that's going to creep in is fatigue. That's becoming like the buzzword now. We've reached mid-March, almost late March. And, you're starting to see games that frankly could be so much better on any, normal given night in a regular season. But with how much hockey these guys have played in a short period of time, some back-to-backs, I know travel's been reduced, things like that. You can just tell some nights the guys just don't have it.
And I wonder how much that plays into a lot of players, Frank. And, there's lots of firestorm about Freddie Anderson and the Toronto Maple Leafs and goaltending. Now, the Leafs, I know you looked up the numbers and you told me before we started, they're 17th in the league in save percentage. So, overall, it's not terrible. It's basically just slightly below average. But it's, Campbell and Hutchison have better numbers than their main guy. Dubas came out and said, hey, I'm willing to trade my top prospect. Do you think there's any chance they're looking at a goaltender like a Bernier or someone else at all? Or are they going to still be focused on defense and forward?
I don't think it's something that they were thinking about previously, but they'd have to be wondering at this point. And then, the next part that comes into play is how much of this is fatigue? Like how much, if we get Freddie Anderson some rest, like Jack Campbell was hurt for a while, right? And couldn't play. And then they had to go, they were dealing with a situation where should we keep riding Anderson? Should we go to Hutchinson to give him some nights off? And, then you're kind of curious, is Hutchinson going to give you an ability to win? And they were kind of between a rock and a hard place, and Anderson maybe didn't get the rest that was required. So I think that's part of it. But I got to tell you, I think there's probably some concern at some level about Freddie Anderson, just because I think one of the things that the Toronto Maple Leafs were looking at over last offseason was, with so many goalies on the market and available, should we trade Freddie Anderson then heading into the final year of his deal? So I think there was questions on two parts. Like, one was like, Freddie Anderson is so close to a lot of these guys. Do we shake up the core a little bit and send a message that these playoff losses can't happen? They decided to bring him back. But I think the other part was, is there a chance we could upgrade at the same time? And so they decided against it, but I still think that there's got to be some level of question mark or concern, given the fact that at this point in the season, Freddie Anderson has a sub 900 save percentage. And I hesitate, Jason, quoting those stats only because, again, the scoring is a little bit off in the North Division, to the point where save percentages, because so many goals are being scored, are skewed. But the fact that this Maple Leafs team is, kind of repeatedly coming out, scoring 3-4 goals, and sometimes aren't coming out with the win, I think that raises the level of concern.
Yeah, well, the thing about goaltending, though, is, it can change from year to year. A lot of people,
it can change from week to week.
Oh, yeah. Like you look at Mike Smith, and, just small little change, and all of a sudden, Mike Smith's near the top of the league and at 39 years of age. So it'll be fascinating goaltender market in the offseason of UFAs. But then there's an RFA right now who's lighting it up. He's been unbelievable. Fatigue's not a factor at all. We saw this a little bit in only 3 games in the bubble, but Thatcher Demko has been what Vancouver thought he would be. They let Markstrom go. Thatcher, they thought, was ready, and he's done it. He's been excellent for the Vancouver Canucks, and he needs a contract, Frank. Binnington just signed, but he was, pending UFA. Demko's not that, but he's only 2 years from a UFA. What do you see? Because there's him, there's Pettersson and Hughes. You got a forward, you got a defense, you got a goalie. That's what you want when you build your organization. They're all up at the same time. And I think they could all have very different terms and salaries.
They could, for sure. And what's fascinating to me, Jason, is going to be the order in with which the Canucks conduct business, in the sense of which guy do you get done first? And if it were me running the Vancouver Canucks, which obviously I'm not, I would start with Thatcher Demko because he's in that different position than you mentioned. With Quinn Hughes, he's a 10-2C after the season, meaning he can't get an offer sheet. He also isn't eligible for arbitration. Then the next rung up from him is Pettersson, who isn't still eligible for arbitration, but is subject potentially to an offer sheet. So you're safe with Hughes. And then you go one level up from Pettersson in the seniority, if you want to call that. And it would be Thatcher Demko, who's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency, as you mentioned, such a big part of your team, and also eligible for arbitration. One issue with Thatcher Demko is he doesn't really have the number of games played to really help his ARB case. His numbers this year have been fantastic, and that will certainly help, but he doesn't have the track record, and being the age of 25, because he played in college and then went to Utica and sort of took the longer development path, which is really typical for goalies. He's not in the same position as a Carter Hart, for instance, who is in a position where he's played 25 more games than Thatcher Demko has already, even though Carter Hart is a few years younger. So I think you have to start with Demko and then get to Pettersson and then get to Hughes. And the tough part about that is you start to run out of money really fast, right? Because, I just think, just from a philosophical standpoint too, you mentioned the pillars that the Canucks have and how important each one of those are. No team's any good without goaltending. And Demko's been so good this year and so consistent. I think, Ian Clark's done a really good job with him as their goaltending coach. But more importantly, I think this is a level of success that he can sustain, even with the amount of rubber that he's seeing in Vancouver this year. And so you lock him up, and then you figure out what to do with Pettersson and Hughes.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Demko's, I think, a little bit more like Pettersson's a really good young player. People have been waiting for him to take that next step, but he didn't take a step this year. Then unfortunately got injured. And Quinn Hughes is a dynamic offensive defenseman. Can he defend well enough to earn like a massive contract? I could see a shorter term for Hughes for sure. Vancouver would like long term, but I don't think that they'll be offering him the money that he'll want. So it's a fabulous situation to look for. I think it's a good one for a team, for a fan base. It's got 3 young guys that you can build around for the next many years and know, okay, we got an elite center, we got an elite defenseman, defenseman and we got a really good goaltender, and then we'll build out around from that. Now,
that's why I've been preaching patience in Vancouver. Everyone's so, we need heads to roll. Like, calm down. You've got 4 pillars, and you left out Bo Horvat there, who's really blossomed into this tremendous offensive player, driver, and leader. I think they're really well positioned. Like, don't sleep on the Canucks. It's just, it takes some patience. And I know that market, it runs really short on patience.
Yeah. And quickly, before we get to Don Waddell, I know is going to join us right away. The Montreal Canadiens, they've got 9 losses, 6 in overtime, 3 in the shootout, yet they're sitting in 4th place. Like, I've never been a huge fan of the overtime loser point. Especially like if you want to get to a shootout, okay, but like this is just a prime case. They played 30 games, they've won 13, right? Like when you're 0-9 there, to me, what this illustrates, Frank, what I thought the weakness of Montreal is they don't have the elite forwards, because in 3-on-3, you play your elite forwards, right? You got McDavid, you got Matthews, you got Scheifele, you got, JT Miller with a sick overtime goal on the weekend. And that to me really illustrates what Montreal is losing. And the fact that they might make the playoffs by being that bad in overtime is kind of a crime in my eyes.
Well, just look at the standings. I mean, you mentioned it. Even if you just get half of those games, get the extra point, 30 games played, you're probably looking at, 5 more points. You're right there in the conversation again at the top, and so much of it has been, since the start of their hot start, the point that's been lost has been such a big killer for them standings wise. And I think the complaint in Montreal, though, is that it's their posture to start, that it's more defensive instead of aggressive. It's more conservative. And I think that's what people would like to see change right from puck drop, is throw some of those guys out there that have that dynamic skill, even if you're not a McDavid, that can get you a goal in those first couple minutes, or at least set the tone for that instead of, sort of the prevent defense.
Oh, 100%. You got to put your offensive guys out. You got to go for broke really a little bit, but sitting back and playing defensive hockey. I know Anderson got stopped on a break.
Can't be any worse than it's been.
Well, you're right. Literally, it can't get much worse than that, Frank. Well, hey, let's get to our big guest today. I'm very excited to have the GM of the Carolina Hurricanes and the president. Heck, this guy's got 16 different job titles. It's unreal what he does with the Hurricane.
Our next guest could legitimately be called the most interesting man in hockey. He was a star at Northern Michigan University, a 5'10" defenseman who later played exactly 1 game in the NHL with the Los Angeles Kings. He was one of the final cuts of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team by virtue of an untimely injury. And after an 8-year pro career, he transitioned to management, helping eventually the Detroit Red Wings, his hometown team, capture the 1998 Stanley Cup, leaving shortly thereafter to become the first GM of the Atlanta Thrashers. Since 2014, he's been president of the Carolina Hurricanes, adding the title of general manager in 2018. Welcome to the DFO Rundown, Don Waddell.
Thank you for having me, and quite the introduction there to get it going.
Yeah, so let's start. We're taping this on Saturday, and tonight actually is your 1,000th NHL game, regular season game as a general manager. Let's go back to the start, though. How did you get involved in transitioning from your playing career to the coaching / management side? And what were you doing in between your minor pro career ending and getting into management and coaching?
Well, first I found out probably about an hour and a half ago it was my 1,000th game. I didn't even realize that milestone was there. It seems like it's been a lot more than that with all the years through the year. What's happened in Atlanta and so forth. But, when I played, I went to Europe for a couple years, came back, and Rick Dudley had called me about coming in and being a player assistant with him in Flint, Michigan. I had a year before had decided that I was going to retire and kind of look at coaching opportunities and management opportunities. And I started my own business. It was in the portable toilet business, which is lots of good jokes about that one. And then Rick Dudley called me in Flint and asked me to come in as player assistant coach. Did that for a year. And then Rick left to go to the New Haven Nighthawks, and I was offered the coach GM job. I was 28 years old, probably way in over my head, but that's where the career started.
So you were in the portable toilet business. Did that keep going while your coaching career started?
Yeah, I owned the business. I kept going for about another 5 years. Actually, my sister ran the business for me, and at that time you weren't making a lot of money in the minor. So in the summertime, I worked the business daily. So it was lots of ups and downs with the job.
Don, we'll get to your manager career, but I want to go back to you as a player, and Frank alluded to it. I think you broke your leg right near the end at 1980, and everybody knows about the Miracle on Ice. We always talk about adversity, and I can't imagine how just heart-wrenching that would have been for you. One of the final cuts, and the only reason you're cut is because you break your leg. How did you deal with it? Was watching it enjoyable, or was it really frustrating watching that 1980 Olympic team?
No, it was very enjoyable after being, spending a lot of time with the players at different sports festivals. And then I went to Europe with the team in October, November there, and was with them at Christmas time when I got hurt. So, you build up a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships. So watching the Olympics, I watched every minute of it, and I couldn't be more proud for all those players and coaches and management. But I felt a part of it. So, right after, I can remember days, I think it was the second day after they won, I got a very nice call from Mike Eruzione, and then, went on from there. But so, I felt very lucky to be a part of it.
And, you were playing at that time as a player. Can you kind of talk about just how that was really the jumping off point for hockey in the United States? It's a very patriotic country, and a lot of people suddenly is like, damn, we just beat the Russians. Like, the political landscape at that time was very different than now. How did hockey change, at all the levels after that?
Well, I point back, I was very fortunate to play in first two World Junior Championships in 76 and 77. One was in the Czech Republic, then was Czechoslovakia, and one was in Canada, and nobody even knew what the World Juniors were about. And today it's one of our biggest tournaments going on. And then here, fast forward a couple of years to the 1980 Olympics, especially with everything going on, as you said, in the country and in the world. I think it springboarded hockey in every state in our union here that now we're drafting players from every place. I think a combination of the awareness of the 80 Olympics. Obviously, I think Wayne Gretzky's trade to LA was a big one too for the South. But you take what happened, and everybody's talked about the Miracle on Ice movie. Players today, I know our players weren't alive at that time. I've really enjoyed it. Asked a lot of questions about it, which has been fun to answer. So certainly that history will never go away from us.
How accurate was that movie, Don?
I think it was pretty darn accurate. There's a few things that are a little different when I was with the team, but it was very, very close to a lot of things that had happened.
So you're from Detroit, and I happen to notice that a lot of your minor league time was spent in the state of Michigan. Can you talk about your hockey roots there, and what being from there means to you?
Yeah, no, I was very fortunate. Had three older brothers, a mother that was very dedicated to allowing us to play the game. And, right off the bat, I played a lot of my minor hockey for Little Caesars, which is owned by the Illich family, very dedicated to youth hockey. And so, and the level was very good, being right across the border from Windsor and all the places in Ontario there that we used to travel to. So it was a great experience for us and great competition. But, my having that opportunity to play youth hockey and grow not only as a player, but as a person, and end up at Northern Michigan, something that stays with me forever.
When you look, Don, at your career, and some people go management, some people go coaching. You had two short stints as a coach. Why was management better for you?
Yeah, I think early in my career, I had 2 years. I had the first year in Flint where I was coaching GM, and certainly enjoyed the management side more than the coaching. Not that I didn't like the coaching, but you're picking one. And then the second year, it's just a manager. Then I went to San Diego, and first year hired Mike O'Connell as our coach. And the second year, we went through an ownership change, and they asked me to coach. So I coached that whole year as coach and GM. And it was pretty clear at that time that I really liked the business side of our sport. And we forget about this is obviously making decisions on hockey players, but it's a big business. We can't forget that the amount of money that's being spent, to run these teams and to pay these players, and it's a $150 million business. I enjoy the business side of the sport, and so that's where the direction that I really focused on, and I've been very fortunate since then.
So you talk about the business side of it, Don, and you mentioned, you had Herb Brooks as a coach, and, people talk about what a great communicator he was. The business side is kind of different, and you still obviously have to be a great communicator because you oversee all the different aspects. And in Carolina, I think you're wearing like 15 different hats in the different roles that you take. Is because of, you talked about your business on the side, the porta potty one. So you just kind of have a little bit of maybe an entrepreneur in you, and that kind of just connects to the big business. Is that what excites you about it?
No, it definitely does. And I've enjoyed, I'm involved in a few businesses as silent, with a lot of things that I own and invested in. So I really enjoy the business side of making something work. I've been a big real estate person through my whole career. I've been very fortunate there. So running and making things work here, it's we needed to, when I got here, the franchise was pretty low because of how things have gone from a ticket sales stand. So quite, it was a fun challenge, and we knew what we had to do is prepare. Once the team got where it was more competitive and making the playoffs, we had to be ready to take advantage of that. And I give a lot of credit to our staff, our senior management, to capitalize on the success we had, because we went from a low of 4,000 season tickets to we're 11,000 now. It wouldn't be possible without two things happening. The best marketing tool, obviously, is winning hockey games, but you also have to have a plan in place to be able to execute that.
So how do you juggle it all, Don? Like, how do you manage your time dealing with the business side, but also running the hockey side as well?
Well, I have a little, I'm an early morning person. I'm usually at my desk by 5 a.m. And what I try to do is I spend that first couple hours for things that I need to focus on and clean up. I look at someplace between 400 and 450 emails a day. I always try to start the day off fresh. I try to catch up to all those before that ones I need to before the day gets going. And then, to me, the organization, first of all, you got to surround yourself with good people. And if you have good people, you can count on them. But I'm a very open door policy. We don't need to set up. Don't try to get on my calendar. If you need 10 minutes, just come down and let's meet for 10 minutes and get it resolved, whatever the issue is, So you find a way, and I try to, practice time when the team's in the arena. I try to keep my calendar open so I can be around the coaches and whatever needs to happen there. So, I enjoy it. It's been my life, and hopefully it'll continue for a little longer.
So if you're at your desk at 5 and you're answering emails and your team's playing late, how do you squeeze in sleep? Like, what's your secret? Are you just not a sleeper?
I'm not a sleeper when I don't have to sleep, but I can go to bed. We just had a recent trip. We played in Detroit, and we got fogged in, and we got back at 6:30 in the morning from playing in Detroit. And, I just came right to the office and skipped the sleep that night. And, when we're not playing, I'll be honest, I don't stay up late. I was apologizing to one of the Western GMs yesterday that I haven't seen too many of their games, because if we're not playing and it's getting past 9 o'clock, get close to 10 o'clock, I'm going to bed. I try to watch all the games in the East, of course. So, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those, I don't know if it's just the body. It doesn't matter what time I go to bed. I'm always up at that time. I never set an alarm clock ever, and just get up and go look forward to the day. I look forward to every day. I know I never have a bad day in this business. We have tough days in this business. There's no bad days. Bad days is when something bad happens to somebody's family or something like that. We have tough days, but we also have many more good days.
You mentioned that when you're not playing, and this season more than ever, you're only playing teams in your division, Don. Have you found it harder? Like we're getting closer to the trade deadline. Like, are you going to have to trust your scouts more? Do you have to go back and watch video just because you're like, usually you would see these teams at some point, but now you're not. How much of a challenge is that heading into the trade deadline for a very good team?
No, I think it's a great question because the way we're set up, and we have been, we have some scouts on the road, but we have a whole set of scouts that are just video scouts, and they all have teams. So you're going to rely on their reports. And then, yesterday anytime a player comes up of an interest, then we get everybody on the phone and let's talk about it. So it's a little bit more of a challenge, but I think this is where, again, if you get good people in your organization that are dedicated to what they're doing, and you trust their opinion, we're very collaborative here. Everybody's involved in decisions. When we make a decision, obviously somebody's got to be held accountable for it, and that's me. But we all, nobody, one person makes a decision here. Everybody's involved.
Don, how would you describe Don Waddell, the GM, when it comes to trades? Are you an aggressive guy? Do you slow play it? How has that evolved? The conversation when it comes to trades over the years for you as a GM.
Well, I've made a lot of them, and I made a lot of big ones. I always joke there's few guys over the years, if you call them and offer them a first round pick for a third round pick, they'll have to tell you they'll get back to you. So I look at it, you have to know what you want. And, everybody's worried about, we all are, about, what you're giving up. But I always say, if you're going after the player, which guys you can afford to give up, but don't worry so much about what you're giving up as much as what you're getting. And if you're getting something that really helps your hockey team that everybody's on board with, just go get it done. So I feel like once those conversations start and you start focusing on, I've always felt that we'll be able to get a deal done.
Do you feel like with that motto sort of driving you that you might be a little bit more aggressive or willing to tinker with your team than most?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's, let's face it. I have an owner, Tom Dunnan, that's very passionate about the team, likes to be involved, know what's going on and everything else. And, we won 8 games in a row, and he wants to know why we didn't win 9 games in a row. He's a driver in a good way, and so he always, he's a challenge every day. Who have you talked to? What's going on in the hockey world? And he wants to be as best as we possibly can. We're a team that spends the cap and will be at the cap for a long time. So he's committing the dollars, the resources to give it this best opportunity. So we have to make sure that we're on top of things that can potentially make our hockey team better.
So when you talked about it, oh, sorry, Frank, go ahead.
No problem. With that challenge in mind, like what are you looking at? Like if in an ideal world, is there a position or hole that you'd like to fill for your team at this deadline?
Yeah, like everybody, we really like our team. We got a few injuries right now we're fighting, but a right-hand shot defenseman, I'm gonna be honest, would be something that I've asked around about. And then, another top 9 forward potentially, easier said than done. But, as you go through this, especially this short year, our roster, we've played now half the season. We've played 1 game with our full roster, and that was opening night. Since opening night, between COVID and injuries, we haven't had our full roster. So, hopefully at some point we get that back. But the way the season is and everybody's dealing with it, you're going to have some other issues. So we're also looking at all our positions from a depth standpoint to see, is there some guys that out there that we can maybe just take the money. We're not in the business too much right now of trading too many assets, as we traded a lot last year at the deadline to get some of the guys. Right shot defenseman, and that top 9 forward, and maybe potentially some depth is what we'd be focused on.
Don, you mentioned you made some big trades over the years. Obviously, the Heatley for Hossa, 2 legit scores. Trades like that just don't happen very often in the NHL. Your recent one with Calgary was a big one. Take me back to the Heatley Hossa. Like, how long does it take when you have like 2 legit scores going the other way? Was that a quick, or was that like weeks and weeks of conversation before that trade was finally finalized?
That was about Brian Murray and I did that deal in less than 24 hours because we also knew that when you're dealing with these high profile guys that, you guys in the media love these stories. And so I truly don't remember, but I don't think that ever broke before we made it because it happened very quickly. Obviously Danny Heatley uh, was drafted by us, was a great player for us. Unfortunately, we all know what happened. And, the change of scenery, his agent at the time just said, it might make sense if there's a opportunity. And that was on the weekend. I can remember it was a weekend, and I wasn't surprised at all by the phone call. And so on, I believe it was a Monday, if I remember right. I told his agent, I said, I'll check around, and the agent was pretty on top of things and said, Ottawa might be in for a look at this too. So I think Brian Murray and I talked one morning, and I think by 8 o'clock that night we had the deal figured out, and we announced it and moved on.
So how much does trust play a role as a general manager? So when you're having conversations, as I know there's lots of times where players' names, you're discussing, I like this guy, but we might have to give up him if a team asks for this guy or that you trust the guys you're talking to don't leak that out. And then suddenly it comes back and your guy's in his room saying, what, you wanted to trade me? How do you deal with that? And if you ever got burnt by that, were you leery to negotiate with a certain guy again?
Well, what happens for everybody, you try to keep things, there are certain GMs when you talk to them, they say, uh, please keep this quiet. And you might talk to, very few people, one or two people, and not any emails or texts or anything about it. Just, a couple phone calls because it is a dangerous thing. I've been on both sides of it, and it's not fun, that's for sure. When you start throwing things out to your group, and it's 15, 18 people, tendencies, it's going to get out, and that's what you don't want to happen. So I've been involved with the deal even recently where they just asked that team try to keep it out, and there's only a few people in the organization, and we've talked about it. So you got to try to respect that as much as you can, because you could be on the other side of it too. So I think through the years this has gotten a lot better. I can remember days in Atlanta where you pick up the phone and call somebody, and within an hour, you're hearing about it through the media. So I think it's gotten better, and we got to continue to try to protect each other's privacy.
I thought you were going to try and give us a plug to the insiders there, like the talent that's involved with getting that information out.
Well, there's no doubt you guys are the best. Frank, I know you work it daily and hourly. And I know that I respect that's your job to find information. And, especially with players today with no trades and all that, there's more of the agents are involved. There's a lot of people. And I know, if I was sitting in your seat, I'd be doing the same thing, because obviously you want to be the person or your organization to be able to break news like that. So I respect it. I don't ever have a problem. I mean, people call and text me all the time, and I try to give them what I can give them without giving them much that's really sensitive.
So Don, as it's evolved now, and you talked openly about what you want in Carolina and the challenges this year because of COVID, but one of the nuances has been the mini series, right? 2 in a row, sometimes 3, the odd time 4, and the freaky one of 7 between St. Louis and Arizona. But do you think it's realistic to have, maybe 25 or 30% of games next year be these type of mini series for excitement level for fans, but also cut down on travel and everything else and better for the players? Do you think that's something that would benefit the league moving forward?
Yeah, I can only speak from our experiences here in Carolina. We certainly think, like you said, the financial side is a piece of it. We spent a lot of money on travel and that, but I think more importantly, it's the wear and tear for our players. And so I think having that opportunity to play in the same city consecutively has been something that we have enjoyed. Our players, I know, like it a lot better. And saying that, we've been in Detroit twice now. We won the first and lost the second. We went to Chicago, won the first, lost the second. We went to Columbus, won the first, lost the second. It's hard to win 2 games in a row on the road. But saying that, I still think when you weigh all the factors, that the benefits of it, I know our players, I've talked to them multiple times about this. They enjoy it. And again, when you start looking at, the expense side of our business, we spend $4 to $5 million just on travel every year. If we can cut something of that back, it's something that we should look at also.
And, there's been some talk of maybe trying to find a way to add a few more rivalry games. Who would be the biggest rivals for Carolina that you'd like to play more moving forward?
Well, it's probably our biggest quiet rivalry, which has been really good lately, is Nashville. And they're in the, in a normal year, they're in the Western Division and we're in the East. But Washington would be number one right now. Washington, and then for some reason, I know why, but Pittsburgh has always been good. But Pittsburgh, we have a lot of transplants here in the North Carolina area from Pittsburgh. And then when you're one of the best teams in the league, that always brings the best out of your team to try to compete with them. So if I look down, those are a couple of teams that certainly people really enjoy when they come to town here.
So last two for me, Don. One, the Thrashers were such a big part of your life for so long. Did you spend any time after they moved paying attention to Winnipeg, and how closely did you follow them?
Oh, 100%. Kevin Cheveldayoff ran my farm team for, I can't remember, 6-7 years or whatever it was before he became assistant GM with the Blackhawks. Chevy's a very good friend of mine, still is. The assistant GM, Larry Simmons, was with me for all 11 or 12 years, is still the assistant GM up there. And they kept almost all our scouts initially. I'm moved on now, retired or whatever. But so I really felt good about them. I rooted for them. I thought, because of not only the staff, but a lot of players, obviously, that went up there at the time. So I did follow them very closely, Frank, and I always enjoyed, and I'd love to play them sometime in the Stanley Cup Finals. That'd
be good. And last one for me, I'd be remiss to not ask about two really key extensions for your franchise, Coach Rod Brindamore and also Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, Rod, I've had lots of conversations. Rod's a career coach that's focused. I've been with a lot of coaches, and he's as focused on coaching as anybody I've ever seen. And it doesn't matter if we're not going to play for a week, he's still thinking about coaching. So I've had lots of discussions with great discussions, and we're getting close. It's just a matter of time, and I'm 99.9% that Rod will be our coach for this franchise in the upcoming years for sure. So Dougie, JP Barry's his representation. We've had many talked again last weekend, and we both have said, Dougie wants to stay here. We've talked to him. He wants to stay here. We want to keep Dougie. We love Dougie. He fits in well with our team. Coaches like him. So we've kind of said, let's just stay to the back of the year. It's one thing when a player wants out of here. It comes down to numbers. It's part of the business of getting a contract done. But when you got a player, we all know sometimes you have a player that's going to chase the money. Players, the first chance are getting out. I truly think Dougie wants to stay here. So, we've kind of decided that it would be best for both of us. Just wait the end of the year. Let's sit down and see if we can hammer out a deal. Put it on the back burner so Dougie can worry about playing hockey at this point.
And before we get to rapid fire, Don, I just want to ask, Frank alluded to it in the intro that you did play one game in the National Hockey League, which, it's the hardest league in the world to play in. Some guys that we've had on the show over the years have talked about, when they had those brief stints, that there was a time where they, it ate away at them, that they weren't able to stay there longer. Was it hard for you? Was that a motivating factor, or were you okay with getting that one game and saying, hey, you know what, that's just what I was in my career, was a one game?
Yeah, no, you always want to play more, but I'm thrilled to death. I remember getting a call in January of 81 to go up and, get the opportunity to play in the old Forum there and really have the ability to get scored on the first shift too, by Ron Greshner. Jerry Korab was my partner, and Greshner came down. Remember, Greshner played both forward and D, and came down on the left side. I was the right D playing as a one-on-one, and Korup came over to give him the big hip check that King Cog could do. It kind of missed Ron and hit me. And I remember I went to the ice. I'm laying on my stomach as Gregor goes in and top shelf's first goal on Mario Lessard a couple minutes into the game. So it's one that I can't forget anyways. But yeah, I was up with the team for a while, took a few pregame skates before warm up. One actually in Detroit, which would have been kind of exciting, and then but didn't get that opportunity to play. But I've been very fortunate. I've had my life has been great. My career has been very good. I'm proud to say that I have the opportunity to play that one game in the National Hockey League and still be a part of it at this day.
So do you get excited when you get to watch guys in your organizations, play that first game? Because this many years, it's over 40 years later, and you still remember the shifts like very intimately. Is that like a cool thing when you talk to those players and you get to see them all achieve that dream?
100%. In a lot of cases, I like to call the parents after too. And I've talked to one just recently because I think, the players right now are living in the moment. The parents have done all the work to get the kids to these, in most cases, to this point. So yes, I do. I really do pay attention to it. I'm proud for these guys because you just know how many players are trying to get to this level, and especially as hockey's expanded throughout North America. The percentages are so low. It's like buying a lottery ticket. So to see a guy make that level and be able to play at least one game, and who knows how long his career, is always very satisfying.
All right. So Don, we're going to end with a rapid fire. The only rule is you have to answer the question. Here we go. We'll start with an easy one. After a big win, what is Don Waddell's relaxing cocktail of choice?
Number one and all the time is a good glass of Pinot Noir red wine.
Okay. Has Rod Brindamore ever invited you to work out with him?
Wow. No, not officially. We work out side by side sometimes, but I try to hide out actually. When I know he's in the weight room, I try to go the other direction, to be honest with you.
Does he ask you to spot for him or try to keep up to him?
No, he knows better. Not a chance.
Okay. What was the most satisfying trade you've made in your career?
Most satisfying trade. Oh boy, I know we talked about the Heatley Hossa because we traded good players for good players. I remember one with Ray Ferraro, which what wasn't a big trade, but Ray was a big part of our team there, and he was getting toward the end of his career, and so I went and I talked to him. I said, Ray, do you want to try to go someplace? And he really did, and he told me which team, and so I was fortunate to be able to work it out. It wasn't a big trade, but you feel good about. A lot of times in this business, you feel bad about doing things. That one I felt really good about. Like I said, the intentions here are never to hurt anybody personally. It's to do the best thing for your franchise. But in this case, I really felt there was something that was good for us and for Ray.
Looking back, was there ever a trade you felt it was going to happen and then the other side backed out and it frustrated you?
Yes, for sure. And I won't say his name, but he works for the Pittsburgh Penguins now as the president. But Berkey's great.
So
yeah.
When that happens as a GM and you're so close, how do you rebound? Like, do you hold a grudge for a while?
Nah, not at all. There's always reasons that we, when you're not sitting in their room having decisions being made, because sometimes it's it can be ownership, it could be your coach, it could be a lot of different reasons why people change their mind. And I've had lots of deals that I think were pretty much done and then don't happen. I'm sure people feel the same way dealing with me, but you just never know what's all involved when you're who's all involved when you're making a deal like some of the deals that are being made.
Players talk about they love beating their friends, and it's like playing your brothers. So you won a Stanley Cup with Ken Holland in Detroit. Is there that as a GM? Do you always, are you more comfortable making trades, having conversations, or do you shy away from trading with your good friends?
Well, I kind of hurt him this year when I took his goalie off waivers and played a goalie waiver period. And again, I called him and I said, we got to protect our franchise here. But I think whenever you know somebody, and being in the business for so long and having a lot of guys have been in these, they're easy conversations to deal because they're going to be upfront with you and you're going to be upfront with them. There's no games, it's just like I say with agents, there's some agents, if I'm going to pay somebody $1 million and depending on who the agent, I may have to start at $1 because they're going to start at 2 million. We'll end up at $1 million. Other guys, you get right to the number pretty close. If you're going to pay a guy $1 million, you might say it's $950 to $1 million, knowing where it's going to get, so same thing as GMs, some guys, you just have to be careful when you're negotiating with them and looking at that, their ask might be a little bit different than how you approach it. So you learn over the years doing deals. I think I've done, except with the exception maybe a few of the newer guys, but I think I've done deals with everybody in the league at some point.
And who do you think was a better pure scorer, Kovalchuk or Heatley?
Oh, I'd have to say Kovalchuk as a goal scorer. Boy, he could snap the puck. He comes down that left side. As a right-hand shot guy, he could score. Danny obviously had better playmaking abilities, and Danny scored a lot of his goals going to the net. Because he was so good at the stick. But when you're coming down the wing, Kovalchuk, I used to say he's a game changer for both teams.
And lastly, what advice would you give to anyone in the porta potty business to have success?
Wash your hands a lot. I always tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what your business, enjoy what you're doing whenever you're doing it, because you're probably not going to do it for a lifetime. But if you put your time and commit to something, it could lead to something bigger. I've always said that, and that one worked out for me.
Oh, that's an awesome answer. Thanks so much, Don.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it, Don. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, enjoyed it, guys. Have a great day.
Enjoy your 1,000th game.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
What an unbelievable story, Don Waddell. I'm telling you, one of the most underrated back hockey stories. And I wish we could get a little bit more into the portable toilet business. But so in talking to Don previously, he had said that his company slogan was "Your shit is my bread and butter." And I just to me, it's so fantastic, but more to the point, exactly what he said in his final rapid fire answer. It doesn't have to be your entire life's work, but, dig in and you get started and it can lead to something better. And look, 1,000 games as an NHL GM now, it's a pretty exclusive list that he's a part of.
Oh, it's and that's just as a GM, right? Because the 4 years as a president technically doesn't count for that. And you look at what he overcame. Imagine being that close to the Olympics and then breaking your leg, and then you're off that team, and then you get that one game taste of the National Hockey League, and you never got back. And I loved his response to that. Hey, you know what? You got to move on and you move forward. But he's a great example for a lot of people that you're always moving forward. And I loved what he said about, I don't have bad days. There's tough days, but I don't have bad days unless there's a death or anything like that. And
we didn't even get into some of the other stuff. Like Don Waddell was raised by a single mother. His dad left his family. His life story is phenomenal. Honestly, he was a small part of that Miracle movie, but there's something there. There's more stories to be told.
He clearly knows how to deal with adversity, and he has perseverance. And I also just loved his honesty, Frank, how, talked about guys that, some guys, they come in and if I offered him a first for a third, they'd say, I'll get back to you because I just can't make a decision. And Don, to his credit, I love that, less than a day to make the Heatley for Hossa trade. That's one of the biggest trade. We don't see very often two guys in their prime being traded for one another, and to have it go down in less than a day is fantastic. So great get with Donnie today. That was awesome.
Really good stuff.
Well, Frank, that's another episode. Have a great week, and we will talk to you on Friday as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline.
Can't wait.
Thanks for listening to the DFO Rundown with Saravalli and Gregor. Keep it locked on dailyfaceoff.com and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from to never miss an episode.